Okay, well, hey everybody. It's Monday, the 16th day of June 2025. I'm Jan Erickson, and this is As Above, So Below. Well, I started this once. This isn't going to be like a cold reading today because I got almost all the way through, and it's my head's right here. So I've already got the reading out, but I had to stop. We have cottonwood trees, and they're dropping their seed right now, which is in the form of cotton fuzz, and so it's extremely allergenic, and I haven't taken anything or had any tea this morning to help with that. So uh, I had to go get my water because by the end I couldn't speak. It was I was coughing and it was horrible. So hopefully I can get through this and without doing that. And I've got my water with me now. So anyhow, I hope you're all doing better than I am, but I'll go drink some tea with some nettle and some anise hyssop and some plantain in it, and that should help. If not, I'll take an allergy tablet. I don't know what else to do. This is a very difficult time. If you have cottonwood trees, you know what I'm talking about. They're horrible. They're nice trees, but when they do this, it's awful. Anyway, we're going to start with Ansus, which is the fourth rune of the Elder Futhark. Now, I think we had this last Monday. We did. Had this last Monday as well. Ansus is known as Odin's rune. It's about eloquence and spirit communication and invoking higher awareness when you interact with other people, so that you're on a higher plane when you're doing it. And sometimes, you need to be in order to not get into any conflict with people, and that you speak eloquently, and with higher wisdom and higher vision and clarity, that higher clarity that you need to have. Especially when you have a geomancy rune like Acquisitio. Its complement is Amisio, and although it can mean success and goal oriented, and it can also mean overconfidence, and so it just depends on where you are in the continuum with this. But it indicates that with using Ansus and accessing the wisdom there, um, that it's probably counseling you today to be sure that that's where it comes from, instead of allowing the ego to take over and to have overconfidence and excessiveness in your speech and your interactions with other people. It could be that you have to persuade somebody about your own position today, and you want to do it in a way that has confidence, but not to the point that the ego is visible. You want that to be a little more measured with the kind of interaction that higher wisdom would give you, listening to what other people have to say as well, not just what you have to say. That sort of thing, that kind of balance, and from there, I drew the devil, the two of swords, and the high priestess. Now, we had the devil on Thursday of last week as well. And we have an overall numerology of 5, which is about change and variety and protection and innovation, freedom versus restriction. So you may feel the freedom of the ego, needs to be set aside for a little more, focus and conscious focus that higher awareness will give you today. But let's start with the 2 first, because I think that the 2 really defines what's happening here in the reading. We always get we get pieces of it, right, with the runes and with the cards, but you'll get, typically you'll get a card that will be the focus of everything, and everything just sort of surrounds it. And today I think that's the 2. Here we have a woman sitting on a bench. You see this dual line here that we see in some of the cards in the Rider-Waite. It's showing like this is happening here and this is happening here. So there's a separation in what's going on. So something has happened that's been emotional. You see the water behind her is not smooth. And you got the maiden moon up there, if you will, the sliver of the moon when you look at maiden, mother, and crone. And so there's a newness or an initiation energy as part of this as well. So maybe she's having to make a decision she's never really had to think about before. But to do that, she's got to turn her back to emotions. She's blindfolded as well. Her arms are crossed. And because she needs to make, holding two swords, and she's trying to make this decision in some kind of a balance where dispassionately, so the emotion doesn't get in the way of what she has to decide. When that happens, you see, if you allow emotion to get in the way, then that might result in the overconfidence that that Acquisitio is talking about, and you lose the focus of higher consciousness informing your decisions and what you then say about all of it to other people. But you've got the swords crossed, right? And you've got in each one's pointing to the devil and one's pointing to the high priestess. When I write this up over at Stepping Aside at my website, then you'll see that picture of and you'll also see it if you click on the video, you'll see it. The way it's presented is like this, and she's having to make a decision between ego and higher consciousness, you see. And so it's an interesting reading that it came out this way, because it's really looking at the decision you make with Acquisitio. And how am I going to be successful? How am I going to achieve that success? Will it be through overconfidence and ego, or will it be through higher awareness, where maybe I look at all things? I'm sure to look at all aspects of something versus, oh, that looks good, let's do that, versus the lack of impulse control. And you see that here with the swords pointing, one to the devil and one to the high priestess. So let's talk about the devil first. Here we have our devil figure sitting on a post. He's perched there. He's got one hand to spirit and the other hand to physical reality. And just like the magician would, only the difference is the magician's holding a scroll in the hand he has up. It would be his right hand to spirit. And then he's pointing toward physical reality, meaning he's drawing higher awareness into his manifestation on behalf of the soul. And the soul acts through the magician to establish its physical reality, and then to the high priestess for connecting the higher consciousness to all of that, invoking intuition and the divine feminine and dreams and change also, and alignment in spirit. Here is definitely aligning in ego. And the control of the devil, which is just the ego within, to make the decisions that you want to make. And with this, they're really essentially being a slave to desire, aren't they? And so she doesn't want to do that, if she's going to invoke Ansus, the higher council here, you don't want to be invoking the ego within to make those decisions that you need to make here, if you want to be truly successful. And so instead, the other thing she can look at is the high priestess, where she's accessing intuition and higher consciousness. And as she decides to invoke change, there's also a certain amount of balance here between dark and light. These are Solomon's pillars here, right there as you go into the Temple of Solomon. You have these two, Boaz and Yakin, I think it's pronounced. I'm not sure. But you also see, instead of a religious cross on the front of her gown, you see the balanced one, where you're balancing the invoking the soul into physical reality, and then balancing the masculine and feminine within. You hopefully get that balance, but all too often we're very reactive here in physical reality, and so we're not there yet. That's part of the learning here of how to get this type of a balance that the high priestess has here. She's holding the Torah on her lap there, with her right hand or right arm. She's got the balance of maiden, mother, and crone here in terms of the moon. And similar here to this would be the maiden part of it here. And so essentially, for you to be successful today, you have to be careful not to allow, you have to make that decision of whether or not how much ego you're going to allow into the conversation. And Ansus would suggest that you keep it at a bare minimum, if any at all, uh, just to invoke that eloquence of spirit into what you're trying to communicate today. Whether, I mean, it could be anything, whether maybe you are wanting to open a business but you need funding, and so you're approaching some kind of investment company, or an angel investor, or whatever you're whoever it is you're approaching, and you want to be very specific and concise, and not allow a bunch of swagger, and bravado to come into the conversation. You want to be very businesslike in that sense. Um, and you don't want to let, the emotion might be your excitement about the project, or the new endeavor you want to have, or whatever it is. If it's something like that, you definitely want to be enthusiastic about what you want to do and positive. But that's a different thing. It's not letting ego get in the way. And so you want to present whatever it is you have to present in a way that's eloquent and wise, and so that they have confidence in you, and they feel confident enough to invest in what you want to do, whether it's, like I say, an investment house of some kind, or a bank, or whatever it is. You're trying to get a business loan. It could be something like that. The emotion here that she's turning her back on in the Two of Swords, to make that decision, could be fear-based, and she's worried that she's not going to be able to get her point across, and so she aligns in spirit. She goes within. High Priestess talks about the same sort of alignment, and she goes within and turns her back to the emotions, and turns her back to the fear about what it is she needs to say. Now, if it's some other kind of decision that she has to make, maybe there's a problem that's happening, and she doesn't want to let her emotions get away from her when she needs to talk to somebody. There could be a problem at work where she needs to go to the boss and discuss that. And she has to, again, be very careful how she presents herself. Because the swords reflects the air element. So that's interaction. It's intellect. It's communication. It's truth versus deception. It's legal matters. And so, again, whatever decision she's having to make, she's tempted to be emotional about it, but she knows better than to do that. And that's why she's doing it in a very dispassionate way. Her blindfold is on there. She's turned her back to her emotions, to the water. Water is emotions. The water element reflects emotions and change and momentum and all of that. And so she just wants to make sure that it doesn't get away from her, that her emotions when she talks to somebody. Some people, they get so emotional about things that they'll cry, and they'll cry in front of the boss, or in front of the one person you don't want to cry in front of. You need that person to have confidence in you, and then you've got tears flowing, because you're so upset, you're so worried, and you just, the emotions take over. And so I think with the two, what's always impressed me about the Two of Swords is being willing to, they're there, but you're keeping a lid on it, basically. And you want to be able to make the decision in a way that's not impulsive, that doesn't reflect, total emotion, that you can't see anything clearly. You're so caught up there. You don't want to do that. And that would be, the devil card influence, keeping things off kilter, and not really presenting yourself in a way that's going to actually get you what you want, to help you with acquisitio, be successful, in what you're asking for, and for the outcome to be successful. So again, this could be any kind of a decision that you have to make, but in order for higher awareness to guide that process, you've got to put emotions, kind of in the background, and try to leave them out of the equation, and out of the decision-making process. They might be what stimulated it, that, okay, this has happened, I have to make a decision now, but they really can't be part of the process other than if it's something where you need to present something, like I said, in a business situation where you need a loan, you do have to have some excitement about what you're doing so that you convince these people that you're serious about what you want to do. And so, that positive thinking, that optimism could be emotion based, and that's okay. But it's also based on the fact that you're confident about what you're presenting. You know that this could be successful. You just need some money to do it with. You need an investor of some kind, whether a business loan or some actual investor who says, you know what, I think I want to invest in what you do. And so again, whatever this is for you today, you have to achieve a different kind of balance that just having a lot of emotion in the discussion just isn't going to give you. It's going to create more of an imbalance. And so, invoke Ansus, invoke that higher awareness, that higher wisdom into what you have to say, and odds are you'll be successful in what you're trying to communicate. Even if it's a personal problem you're having with a friend, or a loved one, same sort of principle applies. You let the emotions get away from you, then they have the upper hand, and you don't want that. So anyhow, I think that's it. And I'm going to go make myself some tea. And who knows, maybe I'll wear an N95 outside when I'm outside watering today because the cottonwood is just so crazy right now. Anyhow, I hope you don't have any of those trees, because they can be a real challenge. But if you do, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So anyway, thanks for watching. And check out the blog over at Stepping Aside. The web address is imsteppingaside.com. If you forget, click on more below the video, and it's right up there at the top. A little box opens. There's stuff there to read. And the web address is there. And the forecast is out. The correspondences for Work and Magic are out, and for the week. And if you like to read that stuff over on Substack, you can get part of it anyway. The whole post is over on the blog, but if you read Substack, it's Witch Notes or under Jan Erickson, either one. And you can follow me over there. You can follow me on the blog, and you can subscribe here. That'd be awesome. And come back again on Thursday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.